The worst storm to hit the Canary Islands in over a decade has turned Gran Canaria into an isolation emergency, and it is still producing new incidents as of this morning. 1,280 incidents handled by the 112 emergency system since the storm began. More than 100 new incidents in just 2 hours Tuesday morning. 350 liters per square meter recorded in San Mateo. 336 in Cuevas del Pinar. 326 in Las Tirajanas. A dozen roads cut across the island. 19 reservoirs releasing water simultaneously. More than 3,000 residents evacuated, confined, or unable to leave their homes. 6 people injured. A 15-ton boulder sitting on the GC-60 after a rockfall shut the road entirely. The Cabildo de Gran Canaria declared a Level 1 emergency. The Canary Islands government escalated Pinca and Platisha to alert status and ordered preventive evacuations. Emergency road works worth more than 4 million euros were launched before the rain had stopped. But here is the detail that tells the real story. On Saturday, March 21st, in the mountain village of La Culata, in the municipality of Tejeda, a retaining wall gave way under the weight of saturated volcanic soil. Part of the road above it collapsed. The section that fell was the only road connecting approximately 100 residents to the rest of the island. A car that had been parked on the road was caught in the collapse. It was dragged 3,000 meters downhill by the flow of water, mud, and debris. 3 kilometers. That is the distance the flood carried a vehicle after the ground beneath it stopped being a road. The 100 residents of La Culata were immediately isolated. No way in, no way out. Augusto Hidalgo, the island's infrastructure official, said emergency works and even a temporary bypass across private land were being considered to reconnect them. The road that was supposed to protect access to La Culata is now part of the debris field below it. To understand how Gran Canaria arrived here, watch the timeline accelerate. On Wednesday, March 18th, the Cabildo de Tenerife activated its island emergency plan as Storm Therese approached from the northwest. The storm had already been named by the Portuguese Weather Service, the 19th named storm of the 2025 to 2026 season, breaking the previous record of 17. On Thursday, March 19th, AMET escalated warnings from yellow to orange. Wind gusts forecast to reach 100 kilometers per hour. Rainfall totals above 300 liters per square meter possible. The Canary Islands government activated alert measures across the archipelago. On Friday, March 20th, AMET issued Special Adverse Weather Bulletin 15/2026, warning Therese could bring landslides affecting roads and communications. By 6 a.m. Saturday, the 112 system had handled more than 300 incidents. By 10 a.m., the count passed 700. On Saturday, to March 21st, the regional government escalated to alert for flooding and landslides, specifically in Gran Canaria and the Western Islands. Preventive evacuations were ordered in Los Perez and El Hornillo in Agaete because of reservoir overflow risk. By Saturday evening, the Arguineguin ravine was swelling. The Fataga ravine was threatening downstream areas. Reservoir releases began accelerating. By Monday, March 23rd, Reuters was reporting collapsed roads and stranded residents. Guardia Civil organized escorted convoys, 17 convoys, 324 vehicles, roughly 490 people moved in or out of isolated zones. That is not emergency response. That is wartime logistics on a tourist island. And then it got worse. Gran Canaria is a volcanic island roughly 50 kilometers in diameter. Its interior rises steeply from the coast to nearly 2,000 meters at Pico de las Nieves. The landscape is carved by barrancos, deep ravines cut into volcanic rock over millennia, that funnel water from the peaks to the sea with extreme speed and force. Roads in the interior are built along the edges and floors of these ravines, supported by retaining walls anchored into slopes of volcanic soil, ash, and weathered basalt. When that soil saturates, the walls and the roads they hold can fail without warning. A storm Therese parked deep Atlantic moisture over the island chain for days. EMET explicitly warned this setup could cause ravine flooding, local inundation, and landslides affecting communications routes. When 350 liters per square meter falls on slopes this steep, made of material this porous, the water does not pool. It moves. It enters the ravines and accelerates. It saturates the retaining structures from behind. When the pressure exceeds what the wall can hold, the road goes with it. In La Culata, the wall failed, the road collapsed, and a car was carried 3 kilometers downhill. Here is the problem that is not making headlines. While the media focused on road closures and evacuation scenes, a second emergency was building below the surface. Gran Canaria's interior is dotted with small reservoirs, embalses, built decades ago to capture rainfall for agriculture. As Therese dumped hundreds of liters per square meter onto already saturated ground, those reservoirs began filling beyond capacity. By Tuesday morning, 19 reservoirs were simultaneously releasing water. Earlier in the storm, 16 were already releasing, with 5 more near overflow. Each release feeds directly into the barrancos below, the same ravines where the roads run, the same ravines where communities are located. Preventive evacuations were ordered in Agaete because reservoirs above Los Perez and El Hornillo were at risk of overflowing. Antonio Morales, president of the Cabildo, warned residents explicitly to stay away from ravines and said the priority was preventing deaths. The road collapses are visible. The reservoir releases are not, but the reservoir releases are what keep the ravines dangerous even after the rain eases. Water is still being pushed through the system from above, and every road, bridge, and crossing downstream is exposed. And this is where it gets worse. Bernardo Medina lives in La Culata, in the mountain municipality of Tejeda. On Saturday morning, the retaining wall below his family's property gave way. The road that connected his community to the rest of the island collapsed into the barranco. A car parked on the surface was swept 3,000 meters downhill by the torrent. Medina described the damage to local reporters, his property affected, his access gone, roughly 100 of his neighbors now stranded with no road in or out. The island's infrastructure official said they were considering building a temporary bypass across private land, just to reconnect the community. That is the scale of what La Culata lost in a single morning. Not a neighborhood, a connection. In the municipality of Mogan, along the Arguineguin ravine, road closures left thousands of residents unable to move. But 60 people in the small communities of El Caidero and Vento were completely cut off. No road access at all. Mayor Onalia Bueno confirmed that local police had to deliver medication to stranded neighbors by drone, medicine by drone, because the roads no longer work, because the ravine that destroyed them is still carrying reservoir releases from the mountains above. In Barranco Hondo, in the municipality of Galdar, an elderly man was found isolated inside a flooded home. El País reported he was rescued and taken for medical assessment because he was in visible distress. He had been alone when the water came. No one had reached him until the emergency teams arrived. In the Guiniguada ravine, 2 people had to be pulled from rising water after the current isolated them. The same ravines carrying reservoir releases are the ones that trapped them. 3,000 residents still evacuated, confined, or unable to leave as of Tuesday morning. 6 injured across the island. No deaths confirmed. But the roads that would bring help to the people who need it most are the same roads the storm destroyed first. As of Tuesday morning, the 112 system had handled 1,280 incidents since the storm began, with 100 new incidents logged between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Tuesday alone. Gran Canaria remained under an orange rain warning. A dozen roads were still cut. Home pumping operations continued across multiple municipalities. 19 reservoirs were still releasing water. Emergency roadworks worth more than 4 million euros had been launched to restore access, but the rain had not stopped. AMET spokesperson Ruben Del Campo said Tuesday's rain should be somewhat less intense, but warnings and instability would continue into Wednesday before easing later in the week. Federico Grillo, Technical Emergency Director at the Cabildo, urged residents Tuesday morning to avoid driving because of the orange warning and dangerous road conditions. Antonio Morales warned explicitly of possible fatalities if people continued approaching the barrancos. The ravines are still carrying reservoir releases. The roads that remain open are compromised. And the ground beneath the ones that are closed has not been assessed. How do you tell 100 residents of La Culata that the only road connecting them to the rest of the island collapsed because a retaining wall failed under saturated volcanic soil, and the emergency plan to reconnect them involves building a temporary bypass across someone's private land? How do you tell 60 residents of El Caidero and Vento that their medication had to arrive by police drone because every road to their community was destroyed by the same storm that was forecast days in advance? If 19 reservoirs are simultaneously releasing water into the same ravines where the roads run, and the rain has not stopped, and the retaining walls that held those roads were built decades ago on volcanic soil, how many more La Culatas are waiting for the next downpour? And the retaining wall in La Culata gave way on Saturday. The road above it is gone. The car that was parked on it was found 3,000 meters downhill. The 100 residents behind the collapse are still waiting for a bypass that has not been built yet. The rain has not stopped. The wall held for decades. The storm took it in hours. The road it protected did not survive.